Hey everybody, Susan here, Pumpkin Hill Stampers. I have a Stampin' Show and Tell for you today, and we're going to be casing a card from the catalog. Nothing new, right? I like to case cards from the catalog. But this one we're going to do with the Magnolia 3D embossing folder. We're actually going to emboss on some watercolor paper. We're going to watercolor the impressed image, and then we're going to doll it up with some designer series paper and our tag, and some nice die cuts from our coordinating set. So first things first, we're going to have to emboss our watercolor paper. So let me bring in the Big Shot. Move these aside for a second. Here's my Big Shot. So here is the embossing folder, our Magnolia 3D embossing folder. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my platform all the way. I'm going to get out my sample of watercolor paper. I'm going to feed it in here and decide what part of the image I want to capture. So it kind of goes on and off the paper in both directions. So you can get more of one or less of the other. It's totally up to you when you're positioning it in there, right? Obviously I'm not getting the whole thing, I'm just doing a sample. I'm going to put that in. I'm going to put my blue, what do I do with my blue plate? Hold on, I need to get my blue plate so I get a nice good, I want to get a nice solid impression of this. So I put my blue embossing plate down with our new 3D embossing folder, and I run that through. Okay, let's see how it turned out. Good. Perfect. I love that. I would just love it the way it is, but we are going to paint it. So let's clear this away and get painting. So I'm going to take my ink pads. I'm going to open them up, put some ink in their lids, and we're going to paint up our background. So I'm using crushed curry for the center of the flower. So I've just squeezed, do that a little bit more. Squeeze my ink pad there, put some crushed curry on there, and I'm going to use Mossy Meadow for my leaves. Oop, lots of that. Alright, and then we're going to go back and we're going to do the petal pink. So, can you see what I'm doing? Let me zoom in a little bit. Let's just work with one color at a time, huh? Okay, so first I'm going to do the crushed curry. So I'm just going to drop a little ink in my lid. Right? Here's my color palette. Little ink in my lid, and I'm just going to come in and lightly brush. Now I am painting on dry watercolor paper. As you get it wet, it's going to grab the ink differently. So I want this to be nice and dry. My aqua painter is actually pretty wet, so let me switch. Maybe this one's drier. Yeah, that one's drier. So I'm just going to grab some of that color with my drier brush so I get a little bit darker color on there. So the wetter your brush is, the lighter your ink is going to set on your paper. Also, the wetter your paper gets, the more the water is going to bleed and run out. So it takes a little practice with the watercolor, but it's fun all the same. So I'm just painting the centers of these flowers. And if I don't paint it exactly, I'm not worried about it. It is watercolor. But I want to try to be slow and neat and steady. Okay, and then after that dries, if I decide I want to put a little more color on it, I certainly can come back and do that. Alright, so now let's move on to our leaf. So to clean my aqua painter, I'm just going to brush it on my scrap mat until I have no more color in it. So there we go. Now we are clean. So now I'm going to come to my green. I'm just going to do my leaf here and my leaf here. Now this one's mostly going to get obscured by my sentiment tag when we're done, but all the same, in case I change my mind the way I want to lay out my card, I want it to be colored. So there, I've just picked up a little bit of that. And I'm just going to come in here and try to lightly paint without too much water bleed my leaf. Now it's kind of nice because with it being embossed, there are ridges in this leaf. So if you're not too wet and you're not too dry, you might actually get some pigment resting in all the right places to give you a little bit of depth and texture to the image. Alright, so there's that leaf, and now I'm going to grab a little more ink. I'm going to come over and I'm going to do this leaf. This one's not as well embossed, lifted up as the other one, so it's a little bit more of a challenge to keep my ink where I want it, but slow and steady. And then after I get my outline done here, I can bleed my pen on there a little bit, just a little bit. That may have been a little too much. And try to wash out a little bit of that dark line I got on there. But in the end, like I said, my sentiment's going over that one, so I'm not too concerned about it being exactly the wet. Now see, it was wet and I grabbed some ink and I tapped it to the pool of wet and it spread around. That's kind of a nice effect on watercolor. Just kind of let it run where it goes. So, alright, so there are my leaves and the centers of my flowers. So now I gotta let this one, it's dark and I'm going to go to pink, so I really need to make sure it's clean. Alright, it's clean. So, let me put my green ink aside. Now I'm bringing in Petal Pink. Now this is my new ink pad, so it's the different design. I can't squeeze it and get that ink onto my lid. So when I open it, instead, I'm going to take my Ringer bottle. I'm just going to drop a couple of drops onto my lid. And I found that they don't really sit flat, so I'm going to prop that up with my scissors so it's more level for me. So I'm just going to drop a couple of drops of my Petal Pink ink in there. Okay, everybody with me still? And I'm going to drop some water in there. Let that bleed out a little bit. Mix that up. A nice light pink. Alright, so the idea is now I'm going to wash in all around the flowers and around those leaves and try to leave the flowers the watercolor paper color. Okay, so kind of like a watercolor wash. I'm just adding color to my canvas. Right, there's no definition, there's no defining spaces. I'm just washing the background. So you do want to be careful when you're getting near other colors of ink. If it's super wet, you want to maybe let it dry before doing the next color when the ink's going to be touching. But since I was doing it on dry paper, it absorbed that water and ink pretty quickly. So I just come right down to the corner, try to get in around the edges of my flower without necessarily getting in the flower. If I goof, it's okay. I'm not gonna get mad about it. Just keep on painting, trying your best, enjoying the art of it. Right? Stamping is really an art. You know, this is no different than watercoloring in an art studio at a watercoloring class. Just that, you know, we tend to use a stamped image or an embossed image or a heat embossed image before we pick up our watercolor brush. But everyone does art their own way. And as long as you're enjoying it, that's okay. So let me just come down here and get around this flower. See, now I went up on that edge a little bit, but I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to smooth it out. Alright, so grab a little more ink and get this side painted. Slow down when I get to the petal, near the petal. Come right down here and grab some more ink. So petal pink is a pretty light color. So you might decide you want to go back and do a second layer of ink, or you might want to just add kind of like splotches. Is that the right word? I don't know if that's the right technical term. But you want to just add a little water, pool of water, and then just maybe a little ink to it. Just let it pool and run and dry, just to give you some variation on your background color. Does that make sense? Don't drown it, but just to give it a little bit of individual identity between the multiple things. So just going to let those pools. Now I do want to come in up here. See, like that one's pretty wet. I want to come in here and I want to get this little triangle, and I want to get this little triangle. Dry off some of my water. Pick up some more of that ink. Just for that defining kind of little piece of it. Okay, so there's my watercolor piece. So now I'm going to zoom out and I'm going to put the card together for you. So not too quick, I don't want to get anybody upset. Alright, so I'm going to wash that one out. And put my lid on. And this one, wash that one out. So sometimes it's a good idea to have like a paper towel next to you when you're watercoloring so you can dry your brushes off between colors. I didn't think to put one on the table, so I didn't. So I'm just going to kind of fold my paper a little bit here so I don't get too much of that water where I don't want it. Alright, so my watercolor is going to dry a little bit. In the meantime, we're going to work on the card. So I have a piece of Whisper White card base. Now this one I did trim down to be 4 inches by 5.5, so it's an 8-inch by 5.5 piece card. I wanted to get the most out of my Designer Series paper, which is, it's 12 by 12. You can cut it into 3 strips of 4 inches, so that's a little bit more. And I don't think having a not usual shaped card is a crime, so I did that with this. So I'm just going to add snail to the back of my Designer Series paper sample, and I'm just going to put this right on the face of my card. Take your time lining up the seam so that you're all covered up. If you get it on there and something's showing, just trim it. Okay, you can't trim the seam, but you can trim around the other edges. Just put it on your paper cutter and give it a little cut down. Alright, we're going to go ahead and stamp our sentiment. So I'm using the Thinking of You, and I'm going to stamp it in the Mossy Meadow. Now I am stamping this on watercolor paper as well. I just wanted to have that same texture and coloring as the rest of the card. And then I'm using my Story Label Punch to pop that out. And then I'm going to take the Mossy Meadow thread. It comes with the Magnolia Suite combo ribbon. I'm just going to do about 9 inches. I'm going to do my bunny ear bow. So I'm just going to find the center, make 2 loops, and cross them over and tie it in a knot, right? Now I can work the size of my loops, make that into a behaved bow. Mine's twisting a little bit. Let's see if I can convince it to do otherwise. Give it a little tug. Yeah? Okay, then I'm going to trim the ends. I just bring them together, cut them at the same time so they're about the same length. Alright, so now that's done. And I've already die cut from a piece of vellum this intricate flower here. So I'm going to go ahead and pop those little pieces out of that flower die. This is just going to become a very subtle element behind her tag. And I've cut 2 small leaves, and I'm going to go ahead and pop all those little pieces out of those as well. Okay, there's 1, there's 2, Alright, so my leaves, my flower, my tag, and my bow. Now I just have to put my layers together, right? Okay, so my watercolor is still kind of wet. So what I'm going to do is, normally I would tell you to flip it over and blot it. Yeah, it's not that wet. I'll let you flip it over and blot it. So we flip it over and we just blot the extra water off it. If it's super wet and you want to dry it a little faster, use a chamois or a paper towel, or you can heat set it, right? Dry it with your heat tool. So there's that. Alright, so I'm going to put this on dimensionals and then I'm going to put it on my card. So begin over again and bring down here to where it's clean so I don't pick up any water on my non-painted areas. Now because I did watercolor, it's going to want to pull up a little bit. So I'm going to add a couple extra dimensionals just to keep it in place on my project. Go ahead and peel all these off. So like I said at the beginning, this is a case from the catalog. I think it's on page 36. And I've seen some other renditions of this idea. So you may find variations on this theme. But I thought it was kind of a fun way to use those embossing folders and tie it into our watercoloring techniques. So there's that. Alright, so now I'm going to bring in my glue dots. So I'm just going to put my flower here. And I'm going to put my Thinking of You down. I'm going to put a dimensional on that. So use up my strip on my edge. Putting this down right there. Then I'm going to put my two leaves on. I'm going to put glue dots on the base of those. And I'm just sticking those kind of underneath, coming out whichever which way. So I'm going to put one down here, I think. So every card's a little bit different, right? And then I'm going to take one last glue dot and I'm going to roll it into a very thin, flat glob. I'm going to put my bow on that. Then I'm going to add my bow. Last time I put it on the top. This time, I think I'm going to put it right here. There. So, set this stuff up so it's cleaner so you can see it. So here we go. Here's the card I did before. Here's the card I just did for you today. Similar but different, and as you can see the watercolor is going to come out a little bit different each time. This one was darker, this one was brighter, this one's got a little more watercolor splotch going on. So they're your cards. Don't worry about them being exactly about the way you see a sample. They're your cards. Make them your way. And if you want to change up the colors, go ahead. It's a watercolor card. Use whatever colors you like. So don't let my tutorial hold you back from doing something different. I hope that never would happen. It's always your card, make it your way. So there you go, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this watercoloring tutorial from the catalog. I will have all of the details on my blog post, pumpkinhillstampers.com, so pop on over, subscribe to the email list, and check out all the details on this post. The link is below. Alright everybody, I hope you're enjoying this month of technique, and stay tuned for some more. I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.